Okay, everyone, welcome back to the Eurovision podcast. We are absolutely thrilled to welcome a member of one of Ireland's artists in the Eurosong competition 2023. He is Conor from the band Wild Youth. Welcome, Conor. Woo!
Welcome.
How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
No problem at all. It's great to speak with you. Now, it's probably the worst kept secret in Eurovision history in terms of Ireland while youth competing. But how does it feel like just starting off to finally be able to talk about it, that you're competing in Eurosong?
Well, people honestly like joke about it being the worst kept secret, but a lot of the time I was tweeting about it and it wasn't actually confirmed. But I just, I was like, I have to manifest it. If I keep tweeting about it enough, they'll let us on to the Eurosong. So I just honestly, like, people were like, yeah, but you spoke about it in May. I'm like, yeah, but we were absolutely nowhere near being like, I hadn't even spoke to anyone about it. I was just like at home tweeting. But yeah, no, to be here now and to be a part of the Eurosong is incredibly cool. And honestly, as I was saying to you guys just before we started, it's been kind of like a whirlwind of a couple of days. And I think that's the beauty and why I always wanted to do it. And it's like, I literally have a tattoo. It's like a box on my arm. And it's like to think outside the box all the time. And it's like to take yourself out of your comfort zone a bit. And we've been so lucky that we've like toured. And, you know, just a couple of weeks ago, we did the Olympia, which like, that was like the biggest dream for me as a kid, was like do the Olympia. And I just thought it'd be so cool to try and do something new. And I'm a huge Eurovision fan. So I was like, I know I say I'm like joking saying I was just sitting at home tweeting, but I was definitely tweeting with a purpose. Like I really wanted to do it and take part in it.
Amazing. Yeah, we were actually, one of the things we were dying most to ask you as well, Conor, is like why the interest specifically in Eurovision? Obviously you're a fan, but is there more to
it? Honestly, I think like when I was like a baby, like one of the first presents my grandmother ever gave me at like Christmas was Mickey Joe Hart's album. No joke.
Yes.
Good answer.
That's honestly no joke. And like, you know, my dad always loved it. My dad's a big music lover and he always loved Johnny Logan. And I kind of grew up with it a bit. And Dave was in Wild Youth, so obviously was he was the same, and he used to always watch him. He used to always talk about it, and you know, now obviously it's like crazy. Like the last couple of years, if you look at like Sam Ryder and Maneskin and everything, and everyone's in the world talks about it now. You know, but like there was years when it wasn't necessarily the case where everyone on the street would talk about it, or you know, if you were doing the Eurosong, that like everyone would that you know in your area would text you because everyone's such a fond interest in it now. You know, it's so cool. But honestly, it was like, and it's something we'll probably touch on like a little bit later, but even like with the name of the song, because it's quite funny. I saw a couple of tweets and people were like, "We are one." Jesus, how did they come up with that? I'm like, I get it. And I'm like, I did not invent the phrase "we are one." And I know it's not like the most incredibly, but what it actually was is that tonight we are one. That's what the whole concept was of the song. It's not like, but tonight we are one is kind of awkward to say. So I was like, let's make it we are one. But that was the whole kind of premise of the song in a world that's kind of, there's just so much going on. When I was talking to someone about the Eurovision, they were like, well, what do you love about the Eurovision? And I was like, what I love about it is the size of the stage, how big it is. And also what I love is, I was like, I loved it. It's like for the semi-final, for that final, it feels like there's no barrier to what anyone can be or what they want to do. And everyone is so open and accepting of every single person who's on that stage, whether you want to do backflips while you're singing, or if you want to just stand there with your microphone or on a piano, or you want to like trapeze through the arena. It's like nothing matters. Like, you know, it's like everything goes out the window, and everyone on those particular nights is so accepting of everyone and everyone that everyone wants to do, and everyone seems like they feel so comfortable. I'm like, that's why the whole premise was tonight we are one. It's like, but I just couldn't get my head around calling the song Tonight We Are One, so I had to call it We Are One. And then obviously I can see people are like, oh geez, we are one, here we go. And I'm like, well, but you know, even I always think like, you know, when you see someone perform on the Eurovision, and you see all the fans from like different countries like waving their flags and cheering for that person. I'm like, what other event in the world do the opposition cheer each other on like it's their own anthem? It never happens. I'm like, and that's to me such a fucking magical thing. And I'm like, that's what I love about the Eurovision. Because growing up, for me, I was different to everyone in my area. I always wanted to wear slightly crazier clothes. If I was going to my Debs, I was wearing a sequin suit. You know what I mean? It was like, I used to get put down for that all the time. I still kind of do. There's still people will pass comments if I wear a certain something, and because I love fashion and I love loads of different things. But I used to get put down a lot, and I used to see all these people, and they'd be wearing like crazy outfits, and everyone loved it. And I was like, that's so fucking cool. You know what I mean? I was like, I want to do that. So yeah, here we are, and that's kind of, in a very long-winded answer, that's kind of where my love for the Eurovision came from.
I loved listening to that. Like, we can confirm that Conor from Wild Youth is a Eurovision fan.
Like it's not just
Shell. You don't need any other proof, Conor. Just like listening to you chat there, like proper
you
Eurovision.
can see the passion coming through.
Yeah, love to hear.
Oh yeah, no, honestly, I genuinely, I swear, I always say this with music. I'm like, I would never just do something for clout. If I was, I would have done things years ago. You know, because we've had opportunities. I never would, and I've never like tried. Honestly, I'm quite an uncomfortable person. So if I walk down the road and if someone even recognized me after a gig or whatever, I can get quite uncomfortable. So I'm not looking for more of that. You know what I mean? I'm like, I just genuinely do. I love the competition, and I love the huge scale of the stage, and I love, and yeah, that's just what I wanted to be a part of. And I wanted to be a part of that magic that's in that room every year. And obviously we're absolutely nowhere near it yet, because we go to Eurosong and everyone is like, I'm shitting myself because everyone's so insanely talented. But yeah, I do. I absolutely love it, and that's genuine. It's not me trying to do it to just push our career on further or try and be more known. It's like, I actually am doing it because I really wanted to write a song for it, and I wanted to be a part of it, and I want to be on that stage, you know.
No, absolutely. We always say to people that, you know, once you try and go for Eurovision or try, you know, international final, the minute you're in the Eurovision family, you're in it forever. So it's great to hear the love that you have for it, and I'm sure fans will continue to embrace you as you go on. But for people that might not know about Wild Youth, and there's very few people that don't know about Wild Youth, but how did you guys form, and how have you got to where you guys are today?
We formed back when I was younger. I actually had quite a severe accident when I used to love playing football when I was younger. Like, it was quite obscure. It was like football and fashion were like my two things. So I'd go on and put on like a football kit, and then like that night I'd be going out like a glittery top. But I had like a really bad accident, and I totally like ruptured my spleen one day playing, and it was like my whole insides internally. I was in like A&E and ICU, and I was like I didn't wake up for about 5 days after my operation. So it's like really touch and go. And then after that, I had like 48 stitches down my stomach. Oh. And I was at home, and me and Dave are from the same area. We come from the same like group of friends who've grown up together. And basically, I went to a doctor after like, when I could I was like 6.5 stone. Like that's, and I'm like 5'11", 6, depends who's asking. No, I'm like 5'11", and I was like 6 stone. So I was literally like skin and bone. So for two or 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe, it took a lot of time to recover. And then I remember I went to my doctor, and I was like, oh, when can I go back and play football? And he was like, you're never going to be able to play football again. Not that I was ever planning on being a professional footballer. I was like a substitute on the B team, but it was something that I just loved doing. And he was like, you can never do it again. And I was originally incredibly like upset by it, because I used to love it, and it was a very big part of my life. But I remember I started teaching myself piano when I was at home. And then I kind of started writing songs, and I was like, I'm going to like need someone to play these songs with me. And then, so when I was like at home and I couldn't leave the house, Dave used to come up, and we used to play the songs together. and we'd like sing in harmony, and we'd like work all these things out. And that was like, I used to call up then like most days, and we kind of do that all the time. And then it got to a stage, then we stopped doing it when I got better and kind of went back and had to go back to school and obviously do the leaving cert and everything. And then it kind of, you know, you go to like your first year of like college or whatever it is. And then we randomly bumped into each other again. And we were like, we should do that. We should get back and we should do that again. And then I wrote a song called All or Nothing. And we recorded that. We all like saved up like 300 each. And we went to a producer called Phil McGee, and he produced it. And then I don't even know how. Thinking back on it, I don't know how, but someone picked it up at the radio and I started getting radio play. And then it just kind of got more and more radio play. And then we started getting gigs and booked. And then we did a show in the 3 Arena, which is the Childline show at Christmas. And afterwards I was talking to Danny, who's in the script. And he was like, look, I love that song. And he's like, do you have any more songs? And I sent him some songs. And he was like, why don't you fly over to London? We should go into the studio together. I think your style of writing is really cool. So I was like, went over, literally stayed in like the worst hotel you could ever, like, I don't even know if you could call it a hotel. I went over and I stayed there, and I went into the studio for like 4 days straight, and we wrote Can't Move On, and we wrote like a bunch of other songs. And then we released Can't Move On, and that's kind of when it all went, kind of took off a bit for us. It was like, that was like number one at radio, and it was like the most played song at Irish radio in 2019. And then it was like shows and festivals and more songs. And then it all kind of just grew from there, which was crazy.
That's really amazing. Yeah. And it's really interesting for us to hear, because I feel like Irish fans in particular will just know Wild Youth really well. Like, you're such a well-known name, but just to hear the proper background there is really cool. And cool to hear more about your songwriting as well. And you touched on it earlier when you mentioned about We Are One and like naming it and stuff. Could you tell us a bit more about the songwriting process behind this particular song for Eurosong?
Yeah. It stemmed from, so I was kind of like, because in the back of my mind, honestly, I was just manifesting in my head. I was like, even though it wasn't confirmed or anything, I was like, I have to do it. You know, I'm like,
I need to manifest more stuff, Conor. Like, you're inspiring me. I manifest the lotto.
I was like, so I was just kind of writing songs. Then when I eventually, I spoke to Michael, and Michael was like, look, if you want to do it, I know you guys have done a lot as a band, but he's like, it's the same for everyone. You enter a song, you go to Eurosong, you compete at the Eurosong, and if you win the Eurosong, you get to Eurovision. He's like, that's just, and I was like, look, totally. I was like, if you're going to do it, you do it the same way everyone else does. We don't deserve any preference to anyone else just because we've done a couple of gigs or we've released a couple of songs. I'm like, everyone's on the same page, like them or not, but like a member of the Sex Pistols is getting up and doing the Eurosong. You know what I mean? It's like, Sex Pistols are known by nearly everyone in the world. So it's like, there's no preference for it. And I was like, absolutely. I was like, and then I got really excited. And I was like, I want to write the song. So I started writing all the time. And I was kind of just writing Wild Youth stuff at the time. And I always kind of write a lot of stuff in London. And then I'd written one of our songs in Sweden, which is called Live Without You. And I really enjoyed being over there. And I love Stockholm. And I found it really inspiring. And I had like an idea. It's quite funny, actually, this story. So I had an idea, and I had done 2 days in Sweden, and I'd written 2 songs, and they were cool. I wasn't sure if they were totally like Wild Youth. So I went into like the 3rd day, and I'm signed by Universal Publishing. So the girl from Universal Publishing, I didn't really realize, she's like, oh, this guy's really cool. You know, he's written songs for like Britney Spears and Kelly Clarkson and all these. I was like, wow, I'm like, that's like intimidating. And so I got a taxi, which was like 55 minutes, went to the studio, and I walked in, and he's like, we're chatting away, and he's like, I've got the best news ever. And I was like, oh, what is it? And he's like, I've written the song. And I was like, what? He's like, oh, I've got like the perfect song. And I was like, obviously you don't want to be rude and start the day off on a bad note, but I'm like, songwriting is like my favorite thing in the world. So I'm like, I definitely want to like I'm not in Sweden for no reason, and I didn't get it. You know, I'm like, I would never feel totally comfortable with someone just kind of giving me a song, because I love writing songs. And I was like, oh, cool. I was like, well, let's go up and have a listen. And we went up to the studio and he played it. And I was like, oh, it's cool, but like, I'm not sure it's totally us. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, this is like an amazing song. I was like, no, it is an amazing song. But I was like, I would love to write a song, you know. And he's like, no, I don't think you get it. Like, this is like a hit song. And I was like, I was like, that's cool. I was like, but maybe we can leave that. We can try write something else, and then we can come back to it. And then eventually he kind of got a bit strange with me then. And I was like, shit, this is going to be like terrible. I was like, and then he kind of made a comment, which I won't repeat, like towards me. And I was like, it was slightly rude. And I remember I was like, I'm going to go to the toilet. And as I was in the toilet, I was like, I'm just going to leave. I was like, this guy doesn't totally get it. I'm going to leave. But then Ed, who was with me in Stockholm, he was still up in the room. So I was like, I can't leave. And like, without Ed.
So you were like, on poor Ed.
Yeah.
Kind of, honestly, I was in the toilet for like 10 minutes going, what will I do? I was like, will I just leave and text him? Or will I? And then like,
there's an emergency.
Yeah, meet me out back.
Yeah. And then, so I walked back upstairs and I opened the door. They'd obviously had some kind of conversation. And then he turned to me and he goes, okay, so if you've written all these songs for all these different artists and you're this songwriter that he's telling me you are, he said, sit at the piano and play me something. Or he said, you write the song. And I was like, okay. And I played the piano riff from the song. I played the piano riff and I kind of hummed the melody for what would be the chorus. So I was like, and he went, holy shit, man, that's fucking amazing. And then like we sat down and then it all came out. And that's when I was talking about the Eurovision and how I found that's when it all kind of came. And then we had an amazing day. And now me and Jürgen, like, we speak all the time. And he's such a huge Eurovision fan. So we speak about it all the time. I call him Jürgen Vision.
Unreal.
But yes, that's how that song came about.
Complete U-turn in that situation, thank God.
Yeah.
That's like a movie scene or something, you know, like
Eureka moment kind of thing.
But honestly, I was like, because if you could see, my back was to him, but I was at the piano and I was like so angry and I was like hitting the keys really hard and like playing it. And then he's like, holy shit, man, that's fucking amazing. And then like the whole song came.
That's such a good story. It's such a memorable kind of memory in the writing process. But you, of course, are usually the one on the keyboard and providing some of the vocals in the back. And Dave is the main singer of the band in most songs, but you actually are the main singer on this track. So can you tell us how that came about?
It actually came about from the same day again. So we did it, wrote the song, and then I kind of get incredibly, like, as I said, like, uncomfortable and shy, and I would normally never sing on like a demo or songs that I've written. And I was like, I was really like proud of the song and I loved it. And I was like, we went and we had lunch and Jürgen was there and he's kind of talking. He's like, oh, I'm going to have to like ring a friend and I'm going to see if my friend is around and see if he can like maybe record vocals like sometime next week. And he rang his friend. His friend's like, I'm not around for 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, I'm like, that's good. That means I'm not going to be able to listen to the song. And I really wanted to listen to the song. And so I was like, I'll try and do them. And I did them. And then he was like, so he did the vocals. And then I remember when I sent it to Dave was like, honestly, he's like me and Dave are so close that we're always very like open and honest with each other. And he's like, I think you smashed those vocals. He was like, I think they're amazing. And then Dave was meant to, we had booked days to go to the studio, and then something had happened, Dave, and he had to have like major surgery. And basically he rang me. I was like, look, this has happened. I'm going to have to do major surgery, but it's something I've wanted to say to you. I think your vocals sound amazing on this song. And he's like, I would love for you to sing this song. And he's like, I'm not just saying that because I have to have this surgery, but he's like, I'm just saying that as like a best friend. He's like, I think if we're both being honest, he's like, I think your vocals really suit it. So I think we should just keep them the way they are.
Wow, it's a great story. And it must be such a proud moment for you to, have written the song. Now you're going to be performing the song on Eurosong. It must be just such a fulfilling moment for you now to get to that stage.
We'll get to the Eurosong. I'll be like, Dave, will you do it?
Can't backtrack now, Conor. Can't backtrack
I'll be
now.
looking for the emergency door. I'll be like having a panic attack.
Like, Conor looks very different there.
Yeah.
Suddenly, like a David Beckham lookalike is back in the mic.
And speaking of that, like, I know you're probably like tight-lipped in how much you can say, and you're probably still working through stuff, but do you have any clues for the Eurosong performance, like in terms of like visuals or what your layout's going to be? Anything we can expect?
I don't know. We've kind of, we've been talking about it kind of loosely. I have some ideas in my head, but I always love to like keep the idea until people see it on the night, and then it's always like a kind of cool surprise, I think.
No spoilers.
Yeah.
And what about, like, say maybe you're not thinking that far ahead, but like obviously the Late Late Studio is going to be very different to the Bank Arena in Liverpool. Like, say you get picked for Ireland, you win Eurosong, and you're representing us in Eurovision. Do you think you take the potential ideas for Eurosong to Eurovision, or would the scale of it kind of change given the venue change?
I'm totally mad. So if we got to Eurovision, it would be like, I would try and put on the biggest show of all time.
The Wild You concert featuring Eurovision.
Yeah. No. Honestly, I'm kind of joking, say the biggest show of all time, but I'm not too sure. I'm very hesitant to look beyond the Eurosong, and I don't want to. I'm like, there's so many incredible people on it. I really don't want to be like, because honestly, it's like we just have to focus on what we have like to perform on the third and what we're going to do on the third, and that's kind of all I think about. I don't think beyond the third, because there is nothing on the third right now, you know. And I'm sure you guys listen to songs, like the talent's crazy, you know, everyone's so good and all the songs are amazing.
So
it's going to be like a super interesting night. No one knows. And then we'll see. And obviously then if we were to be chosen and to be one of the lucky one, like to be the lucky one that did get to go and represent our country at Liverpool, obviously then we'd look at like the staging. I want to focus on the third. At the moment, that's all we kind of have, you know.
Absolutely. I think that's the right mindset to have. And I know you kind of touched on it throughout the interview, but just to sum it up, really, how much would it mean to you to represent your country on, you know, one of the biggest stages in the world?
Honestly, it would mean more than I can even put into words. Genuinely, I would absolutely like love to do it. And that's what I like. The one thing that I would guarantee, and that I do if I ever think beyond the 3rd of February, I'm just like, I know that there's not one thing I wouldn't do. There's not one interview I wouldn't do. There's not one piece of promo I wouldn't do. There's not one opportunity to try and just get everyone behind Ireland. I'm like, and to make it a kind of moment. And, you know, I think of like Ireland going to like the Euros and the football and like how all the crowds get behind it. And I'm like, I would love to create that moment for the Eurovision and like, you know, have everyone behind it, no matter who it is. If you like music or you don't like it, you're supporting your country. You know what I mean? So I would absolutely, honestly, it would mean the world to me and more, and all the lads as well. We would absolutely love to do it.
No, absolutely.
That's amazing for us to hear as fans. Like, really, that's like, there's so many good songs in the mix in Eurosong. We'd be so happy with all the songs. It's like, the main thing is that like we've people who are enthusiastic
and care,
happy to represent us, care, and there's really exciting times ahead, I think.
Scary.
Be
the 3rd of February before we know it.
I know.
Jesus,
around.
Don't say that.
No pressure.
I literally like wake up in the middle of the night and I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna have to sing. No,
you're like doing your exercise, get the lemon water, the hot water, all that stuff.
I don't even put ice in my drink anymore because someone told me it's bad for your voice.
Conor, well, thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. It's great to speak with you, and of course, best of luck to you on the 3rd of February, and we hope that it goes well for you.
Thank you so much. And honestly, even just for me, it's like now being a part of this whole thing, it's so cool to see your podcast and the impact it has and how much people love listening to it and how the engagement you get in your page. So well done to you guys as well.
Thanks a million. Really appreciate it. Take care.
His favourite podcast, according to her.ie.
Yeah.
Yeah, check it out. Check it out.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, Conor.
Eurovision for life. Thank you so much. See you later. Bye.